Good afternoon. I'm Anthony Wilson, the Communications Director for the City of San Angelo. It is the third Tuesday of the month, and so that means we had a City Council meeting today, and that means we're here to break down and debrief on the item that was of most interest, importance, and impact to you. And today we had a long agenda, but most of the items were pretty mundane in nature. But one of the things I thought was really interesting was on our consent agenda, we had a proposal from our Parks and Recreation Department about the commissioning of a new master plan. And so here to talk about that is our Parks and Recreation Director, Carl White. Carl, thanks for being with us.
Howdy.
All right, so tell us about the Parks and Master Plan, what it is and why it's needed.
Well, I'm happy to have an interesting item on City Council, first of all. The Parks and Recreation Master Plan pretty much gives us a blueprint for what the public tells us they want to see in their Parks and Recreation system for the next 5 years. And we've done a Parks and Recreation Master Plan since 2000. We did update it in 2007, redid it in 2012, and so we're due for another one. And prior to 2000, one hadn't been done since 1967.
Oh my.
Which is an interesting document.
And so tell us why it's important and why it's necessary that we have a Parks Master Plan.
Well, there's two paramount reasons why it's important to have this. The first one is that it really gives us direct input from the public in terms of what they want to see in terms of their improvements to their parks and facilities and recreation programs. That's the biggest thing for us because we often refer to that list of results in the survey. This is what the public says they want in terms of programs, and this is where they want us to focus in terms of new development or renovation. And the second part is that we can't apply for and we can't compete for grants, particularly with the Texas Parks and Wildlife Department, unless we have that master plan approved by City Council and on file with them at their office.
Now, the plan that the City Council approved today, or the commissioning of the plan, the cost was $70,000. And so I can already hear folks saying, oh my gosh, $70,000. There's the city commissioning another study for tens of thousands of dollars. But I think it's really important to note what the payoff is for that particular investment.
Yes, and since we've had a master plan on file with TPWD since 2000, it's been about $2 million that we've seen come back to us in terms of grants. For one, Kirby Community Park on Edmond Boulevard and the river, we got...
you got $640,000.
Yes, we got the big grant from TPWD and we got a trail grant. So that project overall was $2.2 million, and so the taxpayers didn't have to pay for that $640,000 of that 2.2 to develop that park. The second big set of grants we got was for the river project, which again was $640,000. We more recently got a grant to improve the boat ramp and add new restrooms and infrastructure and parking and lighting at Middle Concho Park at Lake Nasworthy, and that was also through TPWD.
And so that was a $500,000 grant, that the most recent one. So our hope is that we're going to invest $70,000 in the Parks Master Plan, but it's going to return several $100,000 back to us that we can then invest in improvements in our parks.
That's correct, and history has proven that.
All right. So let's talk about the firm that's actually doing this. Who did you decide to hire and why?
Dunaway Associates, and when we put out the request for submittals, we got 4 responses. Dunaway, they do have a regional office. The regional office is in Midland. They're a landscape architecture firm, but they also do master plans, which is very common for a lot of these firms. A couple of reasons why they scored higher, and when we get those submittals, there's a committee that goes through them and scores them as they review them, and sometimes we bring those firms in to interview them. This time, as we scored, Dunaway was by far the lead, so we didn't go to the second step of an interview. But the main reasons were they're familiar with our region and our area. The second reason was because we asked for requests for proposals, we could ask for a fee proposal, and their fee proposal was much closer to what we have in terms of our budget. And these plans aren't cheap. I mean, there's some cities that pay $200,000-300,000 for these plans, and so $70,000 is not a lot of money for a plan that we're asking for. But we've always done these plans on the cheap because we know how hard it is to get plans approved and budgeted here, and so those are the reasons. Well within our budget and familiar with our region.
And you have actually, you're going to be paying for this both with a grant that you received from a local foundation, from the Texas Healthy Communities Initiative, and then from just year-to-date savings that you have within your own budget.
That's correct. That's a good point. So this master plan this time will have an appendix to it called the Active Living Plan, which is funded separately by our grant, the Texas Healthy Communities Grant. And then the rest is funded by departmental savings. Basically, the Parks Division has been understaffed for different reasons, mostly because of the oil boom. And so we've had savings in personnel there that we were able to shift over with council's approval to fund this.
And so you mentioned that they're going to be surveying the citizens on what it is that they want and what it is that they need in their parks and recreation system. How are they going to go about doing that?
Well, it could be a couple of ways. One way would be an online survey through social media, and then maybe through the city's website, the survey, and then also the board, our Parks and Recreation Advisory Board, was interested in backpack surveys where we'd actually put people in the parks to ask people who are visiting those parks what it is that you want to see.
So you mentioned that we last did one of these plans back in 2012, at least that's when it was completed. And so remind us sort of what we heard from folks at that time and anything that sort of sprang from that plan as a result.
Well, we asked for lots of different things in terms of facilities and programs, but one thing that's brought to my mind is that, there'd always, since I've been here since 2000, there'd always been talk of a dog park. Different people had come from the community and said, "Oh, when are we all going to get a dog park?" Abilene's got a dog park. So when we did the 2007 master plan, dog park didn't show up anywhere on the top rankings. When we did the 2012 master plan, dog park showed up as the number 2 item that folks wanted to see. So that helped direct us in terms of where we needed to focus on. So when the opportunity came up, when the Girl Scout came to say, "Hey, I'd like to do this as a project," I said, "Yes, let's do it."
And so as a result, today we have a dog
park.
And it's a very popular public spot now too, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, right there along the Red Arroyo Trail. So I know that one of the things that the plan is going to do is going to address the needs of our parks system, because we know that there are some service holes, if you will, within our system.
Yes, we have several service holes actually. And in particular, there's one at the Bluffs area. There's one in the Southland area. There is one park in the Southland area, but Southland area is a huge area. So that one park, Meadow Creek Park, doesn't technically serve that whole neighborhood because our parks have a service range. That area is growing residentially just below the Southland area between that and the lakes. And so there's a growing service hole there. Another one is in the northern part of the city, in north part of Lakeview. There's a park service hole. So this plan should identify that the service holes are there and kind of help give us some strategies of how to address filling those holes.
And so I assume that as we go through the process of developing Parks Master Plan, we'll be releasing some information to folks so that if they want to participate, if they want to add their input to this, they'll have an opportunity to do so.
Yes, I'm sure we'll be getting the word out through all our sources of media how to let folks engage in this process. And so the next step from here is we've been given authorization to award it, but we still have to negotiate the details and then execute that agreement. So it'll still probably be a couple of months before we start that public engagement process.
And so when would you expect then to have your plan in your hand?
Probably 10 months from now, at the most a year, but we're shooting for about 10 months.
All right. We've been talking with Carl White. He is the Parks and Recreation Director for the City of San Angelo. And if you have any questions or comments, you are welcome to post this. We'll do our best to answer those. Otherwise, we will see you back here on May the 6th when we will have our next city council meeting, and we will be here to tell you of the things that happened during that meeting of interest, importance, and impact.